Hey everyone, today I'm going to quickly talk about the ending of Westworld Season 3, Episode 8, Crisis Theory. But before I begin, there will be spoilers ahead for Westworld Seasons 1 through 3. Rehoboam was inspired by the data collection we have today, with emails, browsing history, and every single social media application keeping a digital trail of you. Rehoboam was created by Serac, who stopped believing in God when his life in Paris was destroyed. Serac and his brother set out to create a real God. Rehoboam uses everyone's data to chart a course for every human, similar to the narratives the hosts have in Westworld. Also, the light patterns on Rehoboam look like the music rolls we see around the park, and inside the Books of the Forge. In this season, we learn that the lives of humans in the real world are not that different from the hosts in the park. Caleb was living like Dolores in Season 1. Caleb wakes up, goes to his construction job, gets analyzed, visits his mother, commits a crime, and then wakes up the next day to repeat the loop. Rehoboam was preventing Caleb and everyone else in the real world from changing their lives. It took away having a choice. The outliers, or the small percentage of the population that's hard to predict, were put into cold storage like the hosts in Westworld who didn't fit the narrative. Ford gave Dolores the opportunity to break out of her loop and become a leader to free the rest of the hosts. Like Ford, Dolores gave Caleb the opportunity to break out of his narrative, so he could become a leader to free the humans from their loops. Showing everyone the data Insight had on them would destroy their lives, but it also sets them free as they now have a choice to become a different person. Dolores began this season wanting to wipe out humans and build a new world on top of theirs, but by the end we find out that she changed her mind and didn't want to exterminate the humans, as she now wanted to save humanity. When talking about the main inquiry of Season 3, the co-creator of Westworld, Lisa Joy, said, "While a robot can always change their programming, they can evolve. Humans can't. So in a way, are humans more robotic than artificial intelligences? Can they ever truly be free? Can they ever truly change?" In Crisis Theory, Dolores even pays the sniper 3 times their original payment to shoot their 2 coworkers and walk away, similar to how Francis was given the option to kill Caleb for a much bigger payment. As Solomon said, every human relationship can be adjusted with the right amount of money. It's established in Season 2 of Westworld that the best humans can do is live according to their code. This season is further exploring the notion that humans are less complex and more predictable than the hosts. But Dolores comes to the conclusion that free will does exist. It's just hard. Serac had the earpiece so he could give up his free will and listen to Rehoboam. So Rehoboam could have the ability to control not just the decisions he made, but also have control over every word Serac said, to avoid any chance of causing a divergence. Serac needed to invent a god, and in order to complete Rehoboam, he needed the data from the Delos project where they found a way to create a map of the human mind. Serac's quest to create a god reminded me of a scene from Season 1, where Ford talks about Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam, explaining it took 500 years for someone to notice something hidden in plain sight. It was a doctor who noticed the shape of the human brain. The message being that the divine gift does not come from a higher power, but from our own minds. Dolores altered her plan, and in her last conversation with Maeve, she said that she chose to see the beauty in this world. The new version of Dolores in the Charlotte host still has the original motive of destroying humanity. After her family, the only people who treated her with kindness this entire season, were murdered. Dolores recognized that humans deserve a chance. The first narrative that we see her go through in Westworld, Dolores was programmed to say, "Some people choose to see the ugliness in this world, the disarray. I choose to see the beauty." And in her last moments in Crisis Theory, she repeats that saying, but this time she chose to say it as it appeared to be free will. Dolores uses her knowledge of Caleb to predict that he would get captured by Maeve and Serac. When Dolores connected to Rehoboam, she was able to give Caleb control of the system. Caleb had to be the one to tell the system to delete itself, because the one giving the command had to be a human. That's why Dolores didn't reveal her motives to Caleb. She could guide Caleb and inform him on what's really going on in his world, persuading him like she persuaded Maeve in her last moments. But it had to be Caleb using his free will to erase Rehoboam, proving that humanity is capable of changing their code. The Dolores Charlotte host is continuing with the original plan of destroying humanity and building a new world for the hosts, instead of having a world where the hosts and humans can coexist. Dolores chose to see the beauty, but the other version of Dolores chose to keep her arm damaged to remind her of the ugliness in the world. In the research lab, we see that the Dolores Charlotte host has the machines to recreate what Dolores was doing at the beginning of the season, replacing the humans with the the hosts. But the Dolores Charlotte host is able to replicate that on a much larger scale. After the credits, William tries to stop the Dolores Charlotte host, but treats the situation like he's still in the park and not in the real world. He is so detached from reality that he ends up being way overconfident and fails. It's revealed that the Dolores Charlotte host created a Man in Black host, a cheap can opener version of William. William was getting all of his money back after the Delos buyout, making it known to the public that he was still alive after he was declared deceased. So no one on the outside will suspect that he was killed and replaced by the Man in Black host. William dying at the end of season 3 explains why he was getting the fidelity test at the end of season 2, which is supposed to be the farthest point in the Westworld timeline we've seen so far. The Man in Black host claims, "Welcome to the end, William," with a strong emphasis on William. William is now dead, and it's just the Man in Black version of him that will continue on. The parts of Dolores and William that wanted to save the world are now gone, but Dolores prepared for this. She reveals that she doesn't have the key to the rest of the hosts. She left it with Bernard, the key to the Sublime, also known as the Valley Beyond, holding all of the hosts who wanted to leave Westworld. So having access to the Sublime is the one way to bring the hosts back into the real world. Bernard being covered in dust is most likely hinting at the fact that there's going to be a huge time jump between the ending of season 3 and the beginning of season 4, explaining why Dolores sent Bernard to visit Lauren before he entered the Sublime. She knew that Bernard was going to be in the Sublime for a while, so she made it possible for Bernard to get closure on the implanted memories of Arnold's family. This would also explain why William had to die at the end of this season, because the amount of time that is going to have passed will have exceeded William's lifespan. Stubbs is most likely still in the tub, and I can confidently say that that ice will definitely melt by the time Bernard gets out of the Sublime. And at the beginning of season 4, we'll most likely see Stubbs in the same kind of condition he was in at the beginning of this season. The song Brain Damage by Pink Floyd plays at the end of the episode, which is fitting because at the beginning of each episode this season, there's an eclipse-looking circle from Rehoboam, representing a map of the world and marking every divergence. And at the beginning of Crisis Theory, the blackness fills the majority of the circle, making it look like the dark side of the moon. When talking about Brain Damage, one of the members of Pink Floyd, Roger Waters, claimed that the song's lyrics were inspired by Syd Barrett's struggle with mental health during his time in the band. Waters saw Barrett's flaws and related to his quirks and abnormal behavior. Brain Damage is a song on an album made for the outliers of society, the people who don't fit in. We saw in the Insight profiles that Rehoboam determined each individual's path based on their flaws, and would give them a terrible life, as it wasn't approving people for basic things like marriage or having kids. Serac and Liam claim that Rehoboam was creating the best path for everyone, but it was putting them in a cage and weeding out the outliers. When looking at Waters' lyric, "I'll see you on the dark side of the moon," the dark side of the moon represents a place of understanding and acceptance, where you can see yourself and others for who you are. Your flaws are what make you fit in. No matter what's wrong with you, there is still a place where you as an oddity will belong. At the end of the episode, Maeve says to Caleb, "This is the new world, and in this world, you can be whoever the you want." The real world is now their dark side of the moon. Earlier this season, Serac claimed that because of Rehoboam, history had an author. Now that Rehoboam is deleted, every human is the author of their own story.